and welcome to a new show for this election year. Let me tell you a little bit about the concept here. We're going to bring you some of the more interesting national figures each week, not just the politicians, and allow a bit more time for a proper conversation with them. We want to find out what makes them tick, but also challenge their arguments. Obviously, politics will be our main focus. It's an election year after all. We're broadcasting from here in Parliament House. You often hear politicians say they want a genuine conversation with you, the voters, and they bemoan the media's short attention span. Well, now's their chance. In truth, many politicians aren't terribly comfortable doing a longer format interview, so we'll see how they go. We're also going to be joined each week by two of Australia's most respected journalists, commentators and writers, Paul Kelly and Peter Harcher. They both call it as they see it, based on years of experience and astute policy and political analysis. If you want to know what's really going on behind the issues of the week each week, listen to what they have to say. Paul Kelly and Peter Harcher a little later in the program. First, to set the scene for our first guest, well, the political year is yet to really get underway. That'll happen next week when Parliament returns. But Cabinet did meet for the first time of the year today to begin the process of mapping out the government's agenda. There's plenty the government needs to do this year before the Prime Minister can really even contemplate calling an election. I'm certainly not expecting him to do that until September, October, later this year. He's got it before then to do the tax reform plan, which is still a work in progress. There's industrial relations reform, federation reform, remember that one, as well as media reform, the defence white paper, a decision on submarines, higher education changes, Medicare changes, fixing the budget. Before any of that, though, Malcolm Turnbull also has to sort out his front bench. He's lost two ministers over summer, Jamie Briggs resigning over that Hong Kong bar incident. Mal Brough has stood aside while police continue to investigate the Peter Slipper diary affair. Some Conservatives are also agitating for the return of Tony Abbott to the ministry after his decision this week to stick around for another term. We'll talk more about that with Paul Kelly and Peter Harcher. And the Nationals are openly calling for an extra position on the front bench. The PM can't do anything, though, until he knows whether or not Warren Truss is staying or going as Nationals leader and Deputy Prime Minister. No one seems to know what Truss is doing, certainly not his colleagues. They're circling each other at the moment, considering who should take over, Barnaby Joyce, Michael McCormack, someone else. Presumably we'll know more on this score in the next few weeks. On the Labor side, the biggest question right now is really how Bill Shorten can turn the party's fortunes around. They're